Yes, I do like tobacco in all forms. My favorite forms are skull chew. I call it chew. It's probably more technically snuff. I also shift it all around my mouth and put in different places. My dentist, back when I was a kid, taught me that, He said,
your dentist taught you that?
A dentist. He said, you'll be fine. Just switch it around. Welcome to The Aggressive Life. It's summertime and the living is good. That's an old song, isn't it? There, summertime, the living is good.
Yeah, I think it is. It came to me from somewhere, probably not from me, probably from an old song.
So now you just busted me that you give me these little intros to read. No, great. Everyone knows I'm a slacker now. Not thinks I'm a slacker. They know I'm a slacker because dirt is a straw that stirs a drink here at The Aggressive Life. If you've been around, you know that we hit a different gear in the summer. It's time for us to experiment. We try some new things and introduce you to some new content. All this is sort of double dipping. We want to give you something fresh. I find that the podcasts I listen to, I generally take long hiatuses from the podcast because the podcasts I listen to because I like them, but it's the same old, on and on and on and on. You got to keep it fresh. So we do this partially to keep it fresh and partially because I have a different schedule in the summer and I'm going to be off. I don't know what it is. 6, 7, 8 weeks, something like that, at least off of my rhythms I have the rest of the year. So this helps me kind of accommodate the way that I've been structuring my life. So these episodes begin next week and they're going to run through the end of the month. But today we're going to do something else that I really enjoy. It's answering your questions. Q&A day. You know the rules. You've already submitted your questions on our social media account. These questions are submitted, and now we've combed through them, and we're going to answer the ones that we think are the best, or at least represent the things that as many people as possible are interested in. So lean back, crack yourself your favorite beverage, or keep your eyes on the road. Do not have a beverage other than coffee or water while you're on the road, and let's get some summertime Q&A. Dirt, you're driving, I'm answering.
I'm driving, and we had a lot of questions about your cattle drive. Before I get to the questions, though, if people don't know, tell us, what did you do last week?
Wow, all right. That's a good one. I shot my first bull elk, actually my only bull elk, in Idaho. I had a pastor friend of mine connect me with the guy in his church who is a big cattle operator, and he's got this prime land, and I got the elk on that, and then getting to know this guy was really, really great. I said, I would love to do a cattle drive. In fact, I'd love to do a leadership development thing, cattle drive. I'd love to bring some people out from our leadership team or people from our man camp team and be free labor for you and do this thing. And he said, well, free labor is nothing. We'd be babysitting you because you guys, as he says, you Easterners don't know what you're doing. Which you wouldn't expect us to. I said, okay, that's fair enough. Well, I guess the guy liked us, me and my buddy Steve, who went out and hunted. So a few months ago, he said, hey, I've got this thing happening. If you want to come back and help us out, drive cattle, that'd be great. I said, change the schedule, lifetime thing, go out. So basically what it is, it's not like the old days where you have, you take them from multiple states. Like, don't think Lonesome Dove. We were taking multiple states to it. These guys have all got their ranches. He's got ranches, and he actually has 8 tractor trailer trucks, and he ships the cattle from one ranch to another. He's got 1 million acres.
Oh, my God.
1 million acres in 3 states. Every cow eats 25 pounds of grass a day. Think about the volume of 25 pounds of grass a day. So it's constant thing of moving them to the right pasture. And sometimes it's cheaper to just ship the cows to another part of the land than it is to bring feed in and haul all that feed. Now, for a cow, there's 2 bad days in a cow's life. The day it dies, led to market, and the day it's branded. That wouldn't ever feel good. Other than that, every day is a great day. You're just kind of living off the land, a lot of stuff. So we would go in and take all the cows, find the cows, because one of the ranches we were on, they were all massive. I'm going to call it 20,000 acres, right? And so these cows were dispersed all over the place. And the cowboys go out. We're acting as cowboys, though we're not cowboys. You go out and you try to round up these cows and push them to a corner, basically, drive them down the fence, open a gate, get them through there and into another pasture, either A, to feed, or into a corral to brand. And that was the most intense day. It was the greatest day of teamwork I've ever seen in my life. I've been around football teams. I've been around business teams. I've been around ministry teams. I've been around construction teams. I've been around a lot. I have never seen the teamwork that I saw on that branding day.
Wow.
It was insane.
How so?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to ask me.
Yeah.
So I'm just preaching here.
Well, I was just going to let you keep going, but please tell me, like, what type of teamwork?
Well, all these guys, I'm going to describe this, and actually, I think we've kind of scared away. I've scared away by now the more timid at heart people who, when I'm my day job and I'm preaching, if I mention hunting, I know I'm going to get a few emails from people who are really upset about killing animals and stuff like that, and I respect their conviction, but probably those people don't listen to this podcast.
Yeah, probably
I'm
not
talking
here.
about fear, but so branding. A number of things happen, and my job was shooting in the multivitamin. So you shoot the multivitamin in, you shoot immunizations in, one on each shoulder, you brand it so everyone knows whose cow it is. If it gets lost in another person's land, you brand it. And here's the interesting part. Well, then you also do the backup brand, which is notches in the ears and a tag in the ear. Everyone has different notches, different ranches. And then you castrate all of the males, all of them. Now, this is the thing that I found fascinating. There's 400 to 500 cows per one that we did. They make a lot of noise. And of that 400 to 500, Dirk, do you want to guess how many bulls there are?
Well, I know the answer.
Oh, you do know the answer. All right.
But
so then I'll just tell you. There's about three. About three or four, 2, 3, 4 bulls, and all they do all day long is everything all day long. You're gonna have to edit that out. That's all they do.
Wow.
They go around licking the private parts and then mounting them, and you see a sea of cows, and all of a sudden this bull just whoa! You see him up, he's up, and he doesn't last very long. Now there's only 3 or 4 of them. What that means is when you're branding, they take out all the males. They never take out the females. The females are necessary because the females reproduce.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's their cash cow. Literally, it's their cash cow. So the males, they all get castrated because they only need 3 or 4 to go out and screw all the rest of them. And all the hamburger and the steaks that we eat, they're males.
It's all male cow.
Yeah, it's male cow, or very, very old females who now can't reproduce anymore. Okay. But there was a very, very old female there that was crazy. And I really thought about that's basically modern America. We don't know what to do with the young males, and so we castrate them. We have a culture that's really created for women across the board. We've talked about this a lot. I'll just go back through the stuff. We eliminate recesses in schools because little boys are spazzes. They're just spazzes. I believe in medicine. I believe brand chemistry can be wrong. I believe that kids need medication. And not as many young boys as have medication need medication. It's a form of castration. We go, you're too much of a spaz. You're too much of a spaz. Pump some drugs into that kid.
Wow.
Let's get him under control. We have we've made our educational system female centric, and I point to the truth that 70% of all grad schools are made up of women. Men are opting out. Young males are tapping out. It's not created for them for a bunch of reasons we talked about it. All I'm saying is, I think we have a culture that doesn't know what to do with young males. We don't know how to develop them. We don't know how to make them feel at home. We don't know how to challenge them. We don't know how to push them. And then a high percentage of our male population stays young males or boys for the rest of their life. We're just uncomfortable with masculinity, even the whole phrase toxic masculinity. We've talked about this before. I'll say it again. Someone just asked me this in a podcast I was on just yesterday. It's like, we would never say toxic femininity. If you ever said toxic femininity, like, what about toxic femininity? You would get strung up immediately. You can't say that. There's no such thing as toxic femininity. Yes, there is. It's a kind of femininity that keeps our boys from being challenged, keeps our boys from being pushed. There's a 12-year-old kid on this cattle drive, or on this branding day. His dad is a genuine cowboy. He's been trained up. 12 years old. Kid was a stud. Oh my gosh. He was cutting off testicles. He was roping cows. It's an intense thing, man. We had one guy who was on the back, I became a pretty good rider, but it's one thing to ride. It's another thing to take a rope and be able to rope a cow or a calf and then wrap it around your saddle horn and then control the horse to back it up to where it needs to. A lot can go wrong. We had one cowboy went down. Like, the horse came down on him, jacked up his knee. And when he did that, back to the greatest day of teamwork, the whole yard stopped. Everybody. There was, 15 cowboys there or so, and me and my buddy. Everyone stopped, made sure he was okay. The teamwork was crazy. Teamwork of getting the cows in. Nobody loafed ever. Everybody was always jumping. Like, if I was around a bunch of city slicker types that I know in suburbia, it was like a race. Every time they dragged the cow over, it was a race every time to see who did the castration, who notched the ears. No one was tired. And then they would switch off. Okay, riding the horses and dragging them in is tough, so they'd switch off. It was really crazy. Anyway, back to this 12-year-old. This 12-year-old, my gosh. I wanted to hire him at 12 right now to work on staff at Crossroads. Unending energy. Just, he was tackling when they bring in these little calves. He was basically tackling them. You got to get them down the right side, because it's the left side that gets the branding and the left side that gets the immunization. So it's always uniform, left side. And so when they drag these things in, you got to flip over the calves, or you got to put them down. He was, he was getting them down really aggressively, and just a great, hard working kid. And this is the crazy thing, man. Like, if you ever eat a hamburger or a steak, ever, this is what it all is. All of it. It's not like chickens where you got chicken coops or, fisheries. Everything you've eaten has beef. Every single thing has had a cattle drive, has had a branding, has had a castration. Every single one. Maybe difference with like Kobe beef, where they hang the beef up inside of private property and they don't need to brand them. Maybe something, but I'm telling you, every single one. And there's these guys. There's this cottage industry all across America that's providing still the bulk of our protein needs.
These hardworking people we don't even think about.
Yeah, I was at one ranch. This guy has a bunch of them. We went to this one. It was the couple. They were hardy, salt of the earth people, meaning like they're not the kind of people you'd want to take to a party. The kind of people who opt to live in the middle of nowhere, 60 miles from the closest neighbor, 120 miles from pavement.
Wow,
it's a hardy deal. They run, 4 to 5. I did the math. They run 400 to 500 head on that land, and then the cowboys I mentioned, they all migrate around to these camps, to these different places. I think I did the calculations. I think it's 300,000 people. They meet their protein needs on a day.
Wow,
300.
Just those two people.
Just those two people.
Unbelievable. One
day in America, 300,000 people get their protein needs met through them.
Wow.
Right. Crazy. Yeah. So it was a very eye-opening experience. I'm glad I went.
Okay, so we're going to stick on that for a minute. This is not one that someone submitted. It's one that I want to know. You did something brand new. You've never done a cattle drive.
Right.
Most guys, most adults, but especially guys, don't try new things because we don't want to look like we don't know what we're doing.
Right.
We don't want to look stupid.
Right.
And you went right into it.
Yes.
can you teach us about trying something new? Is it just do it? I mean, what kind of attitude did you take into it so that you were like, I don't care if I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to try it.
You know, when we're young, Dirt, we're always doing something new because you got to learn how to drive. You're going to a college if you go to college, or a tech school. You've got to learn the new discipline. You get on a new job, and there's new principles and procedures on that job. You have a marriage. You got to restructure your life and figure out how to do it. You have a child, and all of a sudden you got to learn new things and suck it up and say no to selfishness with your child. And there's all these things. You get to a place. Well, and then also I would say this, you know, for me, if I keep going, when I was 30, I could always find somebody in ministry who knew more than me. And I could go to a conference, or I would literally pay somebody to have lunch with them. I would pay somebody to mentor me. At least I would ask them to do. Very few people would take it, but I would, I would ask that and offer that. And you get to a certain part in life, and you realize there's not a lot of one-stop shops for me anymore. I could go to a certain person who was older than me, and he'd let me know how to, secrets to a good marriage, and how to take care of yourself, how to grow a church, how to structure a sermon preparation. There were certain one-stop shops. And then you get older, and there's no one who actually has one thing who can do all those things for you. And then you get old enough when you're 58, and I'm not saying I'm God's gift to knowledge, but I mean, I'll rarely be around somebody who tell me something I need to know about ministry. Very rarely. Mm-hmm. There's people who are doing great things and maybe better than me, but God's calling them in a direction, and therefore they're going to have a structure that's different than I have. So what's critical is being a learner, and the way you're a learner isn't just the old modes of find somebody to tell you things you don't know or reading books, both with them into, but you've got to find new things. Yeah. Those are the things that get you fresh. So when I have an experience I can have that I've never done before, I know I'm going to learn new things. This is one. You just asked me a simple question. How long did I talk about cattle drives? Is that 20 minutes?
Yeah, close. Yeah.
Jeez. I got more gold to mine there.
Yeah.
And it's affecting how I think about leadership development and people in our organization. It's affecting how I think about future generations. It's that cool. So yeah, when it comes to something new, I would say it's what's called the aggressive life. Anytime you can do something you haven't done, you need to do it.
Right.
Anytime. We went to a church. A friend of mine has a church property down in Georgia. Georgia's overrun with hogs. It's just not a good thing. And so they have deer stands all over the property, and they encourage people to come out, and they give them guns and kill these hogs, right?
Yeah.
I've done it before, and there's a woman on our leadership team who went down. All the women, actually, I said, "Look, ladies, I know you're not going to get into hunting. I know you're not going to be your thing, but I'm telling you, when you have an opportunity to do something new, just do it. Just try it. Do the thing." Yes, they did.
Sweet.
They did, and one of them was successful. Like first, it never in the morning at 5 a.m. getting there in the deer stand before it's light. The guy goes, "Okay, everyone know how to use a rifle?" And she goes, "No." And it looks at her like he's in the deep South. Like everyone knows how to do it in the deep South, right? He says, "Okay, do you know how to take the safety off?" She goes, "No." He spent like 2 minutes trying to get her to figure out how to flick the safety off. She just couldn't. And what do you know? She hung in there. And she was the first person to get a hog that day. It was amazing. And she was beaming. She was totally beaming. So I think that when we try new things, we learn new things. We not just learn new things about ourselves, we learn disciplines and something else that apply to our life. You just have to have a value of being a learner, and that means embracing new opportunities.
That's great. Speaking of castration and the trip to Florida, someone wants to know, you recently have had fried pig balls and also fried cow balls.
Yeah.
Which one's better?
Well, the pig balls, boar balls I had were, here's another thing. Gosh, stay on the new thing, okay?
Bring it.
I've been to this place, this is my third time, and 2 of the 3 times I've gotten a hog, every time I've been with somebody who's gotten a hog. So there's been a lot of dead hogs, and they generally they take those hogs and they throw them in the pond, and the alligators eat them, basically feeding the alligators. And last year, I said, okay, I want to skin this, I want to freeze it, I want to take the meat home, and everybody said, no, you can't do that. So why not? I said, because the meat's just no good. So really, I said, nah, wild boar meat is just not good. And I thought to myself, people always say that about venison. Oh, is it gamey? Is it gamey? I mean, to be very clear, deer meat is not gamey. I don't know where this myth came from, gamey, unless you got somebody who cooked it for you with motor oil. I don't understand it. Every single deer I've ever had would be like the finest steakhouse. I don't get where this comes from. It's a mental thing. Oh, it's gamey. It's gamey. No, you're a weenie. This is the way meat is supposed to taste. Oh, it's gamey. Oh, you mean you want your meat pumped full of hormones and all kind of artificial preservatives? It's the way meat is supposed to taste, right. And it's great. Honestly, every time I cook wild game for somebody, they go, "Oh my gosh, man, it's just amazing." I know. So when they said, "Oh no, you can't eat it," I thought, "Oh come on, that's exactly what everyone says." But I looked at him, I went, "But you guys live here. You're not like weenie boy city slickers. You're like, in the sticks hicks kind of thing." I thought, okay. So this year, got this hog down and said, "Oh man, it's too bad we can't eat this." And there was a new guy who was at this retreat center, a staff member at this retreat center, church retreat center. He says, "Who said you can't eat that?" I said, "Well, that's what they say. I heard it's really bad." I said, "No, it's not. I'll take it home, I'll cook it, I'll bring it back." So he takes it home, he puts it in this brine solution, which is basically a salty solution for 18 hours, comes back, cooks up on the grill. It was unbelievable. It was freaking, oh my gosh. Wow. Then I had a 225-pound, the next day I got this 225-pound boar, which is in the top
big,
five.
Right?
Yeah, it's very big. Top five
okay.
in the history of this property. And you can see this big old nutsack, right? And I said, "Hey, let me get that scrotum. I'll make like a change purse out of it or something like that." I'll do something like that. And he said, "Okay, I'll tell you, I'll do something good for you." This is still the guy there, and I'm just at this point, I'm just paying him cash to do this. Like He's butchered the pig for me. I paid him cash for that, and which is nice too because I bought a cheap cooler at Walmart, bought some dry ice, brought it home. It cost me all in to bring 55 pounds of meat home. Cost me all in like $35. It's normally like $1,000, right?
Yeah.
Once you pay a butcher, once you pay ship overnight air, it was wonderful.
Awesome.
So I gave him $100. He was happy. I was happy. Anyway, he comes back and he's got these little appetizers, which are the nuts. They're the balls that are sliced up off of this boar. And they were great. Now, I'll say they were great. He also doctored them up. He had them wrapped in bacon, and there was some jalapeno cheese there.
Okay.
So holistically, it was great.
Yeah.
How are the testicles from the I don't know, but it was awesome. Then they had a whole bucket. I kept taking pictures as the bucket filled higher and higher. A whole bucket of bull testicles, calf testicles, but they were only, 8-month-old calves, little itty bitty testicles. Yeah. And one of the cowhands, his name is Brett. I call him Rip because he looks exactly. He's the right hand guy to the owner of all these ranches, and the two of them look exactly like Kevin Costner and Rip.
Wow.
John Dutton and Rip. So he came over and he had gotten some of these testicles, and he just breaded them and fried them up. Wasn't bacon or anything. And he brought those to him, and they were amazing. They were like, it was like chicken bites is what they were. They were really, really, really sweet. Yeah, it was good. It's just like eating an organ.
Right, yeah.
I mean, the heart is great meat. People eat liver.
Right.
It's just,
That's right.
It's just one of those mental things. Oh, testicles. I can't. Yeah. I get it. I understand it. But again, I
trying something new.
I don't know that I'd ever done it before, and I'm going to try it.
That's right.
Try something new. It's really weird when people get in this place where they don't try new foods. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. Like there's certain things I know I don't like. I don't like lima beans and I don't like liver. I don't like those things at all.
Yeah.
But like asking somebody, what's in this? 'Cause I can't eat that. What's in this? Well, if you can't eat it because you projectile vomit, that's one thing. But there's just a lot of people just get set in their ways. And it's not good for our development.
All right, this is a great place to jump into this question, just for fun. This person says, I've never hunted, but what I see from you, maybe I'd like to get into it. What do I need to know to get started? Brand new, I know nothing about it.
You need to do a hunter's safety course. That's where I'd start, depending on what state you're in. I'm in the state of Ohio. You can do it online. And you should just do it anyway, even if you're going to hunt. It's kind of fascinating information on that. So I would start with that. Do the hunter safety course online. There's stuff you do online. You take the test, and you're going to need that to get your license anyway. So I would start with that. You might do that and go, this kind of freaks me out. I don't like it. I'm not going to do it. So fine, great. Stop doing that. The next thing to do is to find out where you're going to hunt. I mean, great is if you have a person you know who has private land and they've got things on their land and they'll give you access. That's the best. If not, then you can do
There's like public land too, right?
Yeah, you can go do a national forest. You can do a state forest. You can do Bureau of Land Management. All this public land that's out there. So research that, and then your next thing is just to figure out: do you want to do bow or gun?
And what are you thinking through to decide that?
Well, I'll make the decision for you. Start with gun.
Okay.
Because bow is really great and rewarding. I've done crossbow. I think I'm going to go to the next level and do actual bow, pull it back. Crossbow is basically like a rifle. It goes out to, but you can have accuracy at 100 yards. It's pretty good, but wow. I've never used my crossbow for anything beyond 40, I think. But if you take a gun, if you're in Ohio, you're going to not be able to use a rifle, but use a shotgun. Rifle means it's got grooves on the inside of the barrel, so when the bullet comes out, it's basically like throwing a football. It's coming out as a spiral, so it goes very, very far.
Okay. Yeah.
Shotgun has a smooth walled interior of the barrel, and what comes out is BBs for bird or skeet, or if you're hunting deer, what comes out is just a slug. It's called deer slugs, and they mandate that in places like Ohio or Indiana, where they think everything is very flat because they don't want someone missing and going real far and then hitting somebody someplace else. Yeah, right. But I would start with gun or crossbow, either one, and just do what you can and then see if you like it and then build from there.
Awesome. Here's a question. My family has an ongoing debate around this. If you were on the TV show alone and you could only bring 10 items with you to survive in the wilderness, would the Bible be one?
Oh, wow. That's really good. Wow. Oh, man. Well, I'm a big Alone fan. I've seen every season. Recommend it highly. That's a great flaw. I haven't.
That is a great question. Because will it help you survive physically? Maybe not. But will it help you survive emotionally, spiritually?
Right. I definitely would not feel the need to take a Bible to check the box of I'm pleasing God by having a Bible.
Right.
We got to remember, before the printing press, Gutenberg,
nobody had one.
No one had one.
Yeah.
So it's not a mark of you being tight with God. I wouldn't feel like I needed to do it to maintain my discipline with God. I've gone long periods before not reading the Bible and not losing my faith. But I think you're right. I think the question is around emotionally and spiritually, would that Bible help me survive more so than whatever, a fire stick or something like that, Have they ever, do you know if they've ever had somebody on Alone that's done that?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
A couple of seasons ago, there was a missionary who had been divorced and he won it. And I don't remember him having a Bible, although a good percentage of those folks, people who are outdoorsy, they tend to be more spiritual and more into the Bible, at least more respectful of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm surprised I can't think of somebody on that who has had it. It's one of the demarcations of our whole culture, Dirt. You've got the haves or the extreme haves, and I'm an extreme have. I make a lot of money. I'm very thankful for it, more money than I ever thought I would. But there's the haves or the extreme haves, and we have enough money, enough insurance to solve all of our problems, so we don't really need God. And then there's a whole group think that goes when you're with people who are stockbrokers. I don't actually have any friends who are stockbrokers, but there's a whole group think if you're with people who are Ivy League or stockbrokers, and I'm not Ivy League either, but that whole thing, it's a group thing that sets in that just makes you more civilized, less into the primal aspects of life, like hunting and all of that stuff, less into being able to change your own oil. I don't change my own oil anymore, but I can. But it's a cultural thing that tends to dismiss the concept of God and is very dismissive of the more rugged experiences. Contrast that to the kind of people saying for alone. They're rugged. They're out in God's nature, and they need God. And those folks are the soft spot of America.
Totally. So yes or no? Bible?
I'm going to say no, because I've stored the Word of God in my heart.
There it is. There it is. All right. I thought this question, we're going to go a totally different direction. I thought this was a really good question. What are tangible ways I can be an aggressive leader in my marriage, especially when I feel like I'm a type B personality and my wife is a strong type A personality?
Well, I like that we have a man who's asking this instead of a woman, because I hear from women all the time, what do I got to do to get my husband to be the leader of the home? I hear that all the time. You don't want to ask me that question, by the way, because you're not going to like the answer. But when he asks that,
different.
Yeah, it's really good. Even if you're type B, you still have to have a degree of gumption and instigation in your life. Yeah, you do. I mean, and by the way, just because, there's type B people who are hyper successful and effective, right? So I would just try to find, what are the two things? Is there two things? Two things if you had initiative on, there would be markers that you're participating in the leadership of the home. What would those things be? I'll give you examples. Just like set what those are. Just say, I'm going to do those. Done. I'll give you some examples of these are, and probably not going to do all of these things, but I'll give you some examples. One, I'm going to lead the family in devotions every Sunday night. Now, I never did that. I did it twice, and both times all my kids cried. True story. You can ask them about that. So, and I'm pretty good at the Bible, but just didn't do that. It wasn't part of our thing. I did talk the Bible with the kids, but like formal that, just didn't do it. Now, a lot of people have it works really fine. So maybe it's that. Here's one I did. Another one. You got kids. You just commit that you're the guy who's going to tuck the kids in every night. If you tuck them in every night, you have a captive audience. You can read to them. You can pray with them. You're leading them spiritually, and your wife is being able to have a break. You know, that's another one. You can also be the guy who organizes every year a spiritual trip for your family. That could be you're going to go on a mission trip, a short-term mission trip. You're going to organize it. You're going to ramrod it. You're going to put that whole thing together. You're going to do the planning. That could be another thing you do. So they're just three ideas, but I don't work real well when I say, well, I'm the leader. What does that mean? But if I say, and therefore a leader does X, find your two X's and just do those things.
It's great. It's great.
Here's another one, but one more.
Okay, yeah, great.
Here's another one. Be the one who instigates the idea to take a walk with your wife at night and make it a prayer walk. Be the one who just says, I'm the one who's going to instigate prayer at all meals and say prayer at all meals. Just figure out those things. All right, go ahead. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm trying to be more aggressive in my life. How do I tell the difference between being aggressive and forcing it?
I like the question. I like the question a lot. Yeah, forcing it is when you have your fantasy of the way things should be and you force it without seeing the providential signs that might not be the right thing for you. You know, the number of people who started churches who should never have started a church. They were forcing it. They didn't understand their spiritual gifts. They didn't understand. They weren't getting the counsel of many, many of them. I know a lot of people, it doesn't happen anymore, but back when we used to actually get married, it was crazy. But you know, it used to be, you used to date somebody, and then you'd get engaged, and you get engaged for like 4 months. That's it. You're getting engaged just enough to just do some plans because you want to get laid and have God approve of it, right?
Yeah.
And then you get married,
Yeah.
like it wasn't this 2-year engagement thing, and then you'd have a kid. It was wild, man, wild. But back in those days, you had a lot of people who were forcing it. They were making really bad spouse decisions. And I think that still happens today. Probably more so in the conservative Christian community, where someone believes if they're not married by 25, then they're losing their life. I think that's forcing it. So you certainly can still force it, but when you're trying to push your agenda and your fantasy on something, you're forcing it. When you're noticing an opportunity that you really want to take advantage of, that's the kind of aggression I'm into.
Great. I love it. I'm 21 years old. I have nothing about life figured out. Is it time for me to worry?
Boy, I'd rather you say you have nothing about life figured out than for you to be 21 and say you have life all figured out. Really, honestly. No, I think back to our earlier question, that tells me you're a learner. It's the learners that always thrive. I think that's a posture of humility. So, dude, whoever you are, well done. You're going the right direction. Keep learning. And when you learn something you're not doing, just do it. And you will be surprised at the wins that start stacking up in your life.
Great. My wife thinks I have too many friends. Any advice on how to manage a lot of friendships and how to handle that disagreement at home?
Wow, that's a new one.
Yeah.
That's a new one. I wondered, when he says friends, is he having just a lot of acquaintances and a lot of people goes out drinking with, or does he have a lot of people who he has genuine heart talk with?
Right.
I don't know. He's just got to ask his wife, like, well, why do you think I have too many? Is there a time limit you want to put on me that we think isn't right? You just got to have that sort of thing. But you also, and there are some women who are really freaky about this. Most women feel very unsafe when their husband doesn't have any friends. Lib, no question, is safer because of people like 512 and Log. No question.
Right.
But there's some women that don't understand that. So you just got to let her know, honey, you realize you need me having a healthy relational life because that's part of how I'm going to stay out of trouble. These guys call me on my crap. These guys keep me on the straight and narrow. These guys keep me healthy so I don't feel like I have to have wandering eyes any place because I'm getting a lot of my relational needs met through them. And sweetie, you're still the most important person in my life. You are my flesh. And so I don't want to do anything that makes you not feel comfortable. So let me just tell you again, really straight up, sweetie, you are the most important person in my life. And I just believe I'm going to be a better man for you if I've got healthy friendships.
Great. We'll shift over to some leadership/church questions. First one, how did you handle the backlash over the Super Bowl of preaching service and the quote-unquote kicking of the Bible?
Yeah. Well, I don't even like talking about it because then I'm letting people know that it happened, and most people at Crossroads don't have any idea even it happened. Our second largest service of the year at the church I lead, which my day job, is Super Bowl preaching. It just goes bigger and bigger and bigger, but tens of thousands of people. What do we have this last year, Derek?
Oh, I don't remember.
It was
multiple, tens of thousands, like you said.
It was something up there.
It was a lot, yeah.
And we've been doing it for probably 15 years, and we've done it the same way for 15 years. You take a Bible and you kick off, you put it down and you kick off the Bible. And actually, that was what it was in the earliest days, like the first 2 years. For the last 12 years, at least, it's a Bible case that someone picked up at a cheesy Christian bookstore that has NFL on it. It's a pigskin thing. It's a Bible case. And there's foam in it. It's not even a Bible. It's just a foam case. And we've never heard any. We've been doing this forever. Everybody who shows up at the thing knows that it is satire. It's sarcastic. We're having fun. And everyone who shows up and does the whole thing knows that actually the word of God is given and people get impacted, spiritually speaking. And there is a massive over-the-top fun factor we go with. And we never had any problems at all. Never. But, the world has changed. The internet has changed. And there are sites that exist only to get your eyeballs. And they will tell you anything that you want to hear just to get you to look at their site so that they can sell advertising. And there's a bunch of these sites that are Christian sites. And they exist only because of that. And you think that these sites or these podcasters are there because they're trying to grow the kingdom. They're not. They're not. They're trying to grow their own personal kingdom, and they're feeding people red meat of indignancy. So we had a few of these folks just take a clip of it, which was from years ago, by the way. Years. It wasn't even the most recent one. And they just fed it out as red meat to all of their followers of indignancy of how this awful church is. This is a problem with the church in America. And it created massive, we're talking about death threats. We're talking about, it was unbelievable. It was crazy. And, you can't do anything but duck and hide. You can't even defend yourself. You actually reach out to these sites and they don't respond to you. And you just got to duck and bear it until it blows over and they find their next thing to be indignant about and throw red meat to. It's really sad. Really sad. I think we had maybe one or two people at Crossroads that were upset about it. And those people were all people who were newer, and they were all people who were tied into the hyper extreme Christian-y community. No, I'm extreme in Christianity. I believe the Bible, every word of it. But there's a whole bunch of things that some people take as gospel. They're not gospel. They're your religious preferences. And by the way, sorry to tell you this, the Bible is a book with paper on it. The Word of God is the truth that's in the Bible, not the pages in the Bible. I don't know if I need to have a science class for you or if I need to have a Bible class for you, but the printed page is not the Word of God. It's the truth that you get from the printed page. That's the Word of God. When the Bible talks about the Word of God, nobody had a bound book. This seems basic, but you got a lot of people who put themselves out as Christian leaders who don't know basic things. And because you made us spend a lot of money on security, taking kids to school because they've had death threats to kill all the family. Like one of them, I can't wait to have my hands around your throat and to have your children who I've killed before you, their dead bodies there as you die. You got to take that stuff seriously.
Yeah, totally.
That costs you a lot of money.
Yeesh.
To defend a staff person on that and the whole family. That's life in modern America. Now, you asked me how I dealt with it. Fine. Didn't lose a single day of life over it.
Yeah.
Fine by me. Partially because people ask me all the time, like, hey, how do you deal with all the criticism? I know there's a lot of chatter around people like me who have churches the size that I have. And whenever someone says, how do you handle all the criticism? I look at them dumbfounded because I think, what criticism? I honestly have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then I realized later, I forgot there's this whole dark underworld of people who don't have anything to do other than criticize somebody, and other people who make their money from stoking the antagonism. And I've opted out of all that. Oh, that's right. I've opted out of that. Yeah. I X'd all of that out of my life. I just out of my life. So I don't, while all that was happening, the only time I found out about it was when I found from people who were really dealing with it, when they were giving me updates. I don't, and when people were upset with me and they're doing whatever, come find me. I would love to lead you to Christ or put you down. Either way, come find me.
Okay, so if you were starting Crossroads today in 2024, what would be the number one thing you would look for or you would want to do? Look for in staff, or what's the number one thing that you would want to do?
It would be the same thing I would want to do right now. I'll just say the basics. All right, the basics. You got to make sure that you are leading a healthy and sustainable life. And that means you got to make sure that your family's being taken care of. And you've got, just like the previous question, you know how to take care of your family. Not just I got to take care of my family. What are those things? It's things like family meals every night. It's things like tucking your kids in their bed. It's things like date nights with your wife. It's things like a family vacation getting away. It's whatever those things, you got to put those things in the calendar and say, I just do those things. If you leave it up to every day, like, am I going to have a family meal tonight? I'm going to pray with the kids before they go to bed. No, you won't. So once you get all those things handled and you walk with God and everything, it comes down to wake makers. Have we talked about wake makers here before?
Just a little bit, but please tell me more.
How much time do we have, Dirk?
We got as much time as you want.
All right. I sold my boat a couple, 3 years ago. I sold my boat because I needed a new truck, and I didn't have money to buy the truck, and we weren't using the boat that much, so I needed the cash. As much as I make, I still have cash limitations. So I got one house, I can't afford a boat, and the other things I want to do. So I sold the boat. Now, when I had this boat, I had a wakeboard boat. I had a lower model, a relatively lower cost model called Moomba. It wasn't one of the higher models of some other ones, but if you've never been on the water, never been a water skier or a wakeboarder, you may not be aware of this, but there are two different kinds of, there's a bunch of different motorized boats, but the kind of boats that pull somebody behind them, there's two different kinds. They're different kinds. You can do both with these boats, but in its pure sense, there's two kinds. There's a ski boat and there is a wake boat. A ski boat has been designed for decades and decades, 100 years, a long time, and it was made for water skiing, and you would get popped up on the water. And the goal was to make as little wake as possible because you want to cut back and forth with the ski behind the boat and you don't want to do it over waves. So over the years, they've learned what the shape of the hull needs to be. Put the engine in the middle of the boat, not the back of the boat, because the back of the boat displaces more water. You put it in the middle of the boat. It evenly disperses the hull of the craft, so there's as little wake as possible. And that's been the whole thing of a ski boat for forever and ever and ever and ever. And then I've done my research on this. It's very, very debatable. The first, when wake surfing started, let's call it the late 80s. And I think the history goes kind of like this. It was the end of a day. A bunch of guys have been slamming beers in the back of the boat, which still surprised me. Like all this stuff about no DUI in the road, but like you can be in a boat and just be slamming beers and driving all day long. Really weird. So that kind of thing is happening during the day. And at the end of the day, some big fat guys in the back, and they've had a bunch of beers, and they look in the back because the big fat guys in the back or the fattest guys in the back, the boat is displacing more water, and they look in the back, and there's this wake, more so than normal, and someone goes, hey, dudes, let's get an inner tube or something, let's throw it out there, see what happens. So they do this, and wakeboarding is invented, where now you want to intentionally have a wake that you can jump on a different board. And then you can actually throw the rope into the boat and you can surf and have someone throw you a beer and you're surfing in the wake that's coming off the boat. It's really awesome. It's really fun. Now, that's a long way, and this has revolutionized the boating industry. So now the highest priced boats are wakeboard boats that's got all this technology that's antithetical to ski boats. Like, now they're sucking water onto the boats in big ballast bags to make more weight. They take the engine from the middle of the boat to the back of the boat. They've got shapers in the back of the boat that shape the wake so it's usable. It's an industry, and they're making every boat every year is better and better and more expensive because they're still learning what technology works best. Now, that's a long way around to say back to you, and this has business applications as well. In fact, I've told this to business folks, like, oh man, I got to use that. Okay, you can use it. That's fine. The kind of people you want in your organization are wake makers. You want the kind of people that churn up wake. And what most people hire in churches is they hire wake skiers. People just want to ski on it. They hire people who smooth out the water, like HR. I talk to people like HR. You don't need an HR department. You need to hire better people. If you have an HR department, you got like 8 staff or 10 staff. Oh my gosh. Wait till you get to like 100 or something like that. Just, my word. But like that's what HR generally does. Not the HR person we have here, Latasha Patrick, who's fantastic. But HR and finance, they smooth things out. They're always trying to smooth things out. And you need that. You don't want rough waters. So there is an element of that. But your church and your organization going forward, if you have wake makers, people who churn things up, you need a student ministry that people complain about, that people are upset about. You need a person who's a pastor, who's a wake maker. And the reason why the American church isn't really going anywhere is because we don't want wake makers to be our pastors. We want someone to just make things smooth, just pastor us. That's why I had to start a church. I didn't really want to start a church. I'd rather inherited one. A lot less work. But no one would have me. I'm known as a loose cannon in pastoral circles. I heard that our executive pastor was with all these executive pastors of these mega churches, and he was in a conversation. He's like, "Yeah, Brian Tracy, he's just a loose cannon." I said, "What does that mean, loose cannon?" He said, "Well, a cannon that fires big objects but isn't moored and kind of floats all over the boat." I fire big objects. I am not loose. I could not be doing the same job I've done for 28 years if I wasn't tethered. But what those guys are saying, like, that dude, oh my gosh, he's bringing live horses on stage, the Super Bowl, and you got all these people upset, they're kicking a Bible, and and our church grew a couple thousand people that day. Yeah, that's right. We're making wake. This last weekend was a really great one, and we reenacted a prison experience for people. And I had to go to the mat because I wanted to have zip ties. Let's zip tie everybody when they come in, give them a prison experience, and then let's break them out of their bondage later on. And people were just losing their mind. Like, oh gosh, people are going to get, what if we trigger people, PTSD or not? Hey, if they don't want to have the zip tie, that's fine. Let's not have the zip tie. But I went round and round and round and round and round. Should we do this? And I just finally had to line the tracks and say, no, we are going to have zip ties. Going to have zip ties. And we did. It was great. It was awesome. People had tears in their eyes, and it was a spiritually meaningful thing. That's making wake. Like, you're going to have, even in your organization, if you're a wake maker, people are going to keep trying to tamp it down and make it more manageable. When you're hiring, the wake makers are very, very hard to find, and they're very, very hard to keep. But that's the key to any organization, business, church, whatever. How many wake makers do you have? People who churn things up, who make things happen, and people can surf on their activity. You've got to think about those people first and not the safety people first, the wake makers first.
It's great. Coming to my first man camp in the fall, what do I need to know?
You need to know, do not waste any space packing extra underwear, socks, pants, coat. Just don't, or shirt. I mean, you're fine to be the way you are. And now, if there's downpour, you want a spare pair of socks, something, okay, but you're going to be fine. Don't waste it on all these. You're going to be okay not taking a bath for 2 or 3 days. You're going to be fine. So you're going to be fine. People get freaked out about it. You're going to be fine not brush your teeth. Now, if you want to brush your teeth, great. But as they say in the backpacking world, ounces become pounds. So you only have so much space in your backpack or your wagon. That's another thing. Man camp. Get one of those wagons. People are using those landscape wagons. You don't have to. The most manly guys in the smallest backpack. Just get your stuff in there, right? Okay. Pull it in on the gravel road on a deal. So I think that's the biggest thing is working on that. And then the second thing, as you figure out how much stuff you can bring in or how to minimize things, is sleep. It's all about your sleep system. Have a pad and a bag. You feel really good about it. Test it out. If you've never camped before, test it out at home. Make sure it works for you. Test it out like 2 weeks ahead of time. Now, it might not work for you the first night. It's generally the second night you sleep okay. but test that thing out. Also, if you're a newbie camper, get earplugs. Jam those suckers in your ear. It'll block out sound, give you the white noise of your own brain chemicals that are coursing through your head, and it'll help you sleep. That's my thoughts.
Great. Last question. We know you like tobacco in all forms, but what are your most favorite forms? All of them?
Yeah, I did. And I actually look at your little list here, Dirt. It makes sense. You've got the next one. What helps you unwind after a difficult day of work? I'll put these two things together. Yeah. That's right. Yes, I do like tobacco in all forms. My favorite forms are skull chew. I call it chew. It's probably more technically snuff. If I'm going to have a short chew, I do long cut because I can pull it out of my mouth real easily and clean out my teeth. If I'm in the yard working in the garage, it's going to be fine cut because I'm going to have it in there for a long time, like maybe 2 hours or an hour and a half, something like that. And the long cut just jacks up your thing too much. I also shifted all around my mouth and put in different places. My dentist back when I was a kid taught me that. He said,
your dentist taught you that?
A dentist. He said, you'll be fine. Just switch it around. Just move it around. So, different parts of my lip and gums and the bottom. I'm not saying, by the way, there's no problem with using chew. I know it's a risk. I know it is, but it's so far it's been worth the risk. So that's my deal. And then it kind of ties into with the unwind after day. I have a routine I've done for 15 years now, maybe. At the end of the day, everyone's down, Lib's in bed, or she's gone up first from me. I have 2 Marlboro Red cigarettes, 2, and I sit on my front porch and I reflect on the day and think about what's coming up in the week and just kind of chill, or I do it when I'm in my garage looking at one of my projects that I'm working on. And what that does for me, it's not that I like need the nicotine or the smoke. In fact, I've been doing it long enough. I don't get a buzz from it. I wish I did. I don't get a buzz at all. And when I tell medical professionals this, they're always shocked. Like, wait a minute, you can have just 2 and stop? Yeah. They're like they can't believe it. They're like, what? Yeah. And you can say, yeah. I've gone days before without it because it wasn't appropriate or I was someplace else, something like that. But now, when I camp or do something else, there's times when it's all bets off. It's way more than 2. But for the most part, it's that. But my thing for me is that's a routine that just says my day's over. I'm not saying you need to start having 2 cigarettes a day, but I do think it's important to say at the end, what's your routine? Is it hitting the bed on your knees and having prayer at the end of the day? Is it taking a little walk around the neighborhood? I think marking moments are really important. That's part of why we drink coffee, right? We're drinking coffee. I drink decaf coffee. I don't get any buzz off of it, but I like the routine of it. I have that cup of coffee and I go, okay, it's go time. It's another day. First thing, here we go. Take this coffee, have my time with God, all that stuff. And I think it's important to close out a day well. So that's what I do.
Love it.
All right. I think that's it, Dirt.
Yeah, good job.
It was good for me. It was good for you.
It was fun. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, all right, good. Live talks during the month of July. They start next week. Dirt has gone to wherever I go and speak. Dirt is there. So he's there to hear what I say, and he takes notes, and he helps me do articles, all that stuff. Dirt has his hands on everything, but he's also been in the origination of all those things. And he's heard me speak this last year more than anybody has, and so he's got an understanding of, wow, where's what talks might we want to repurpose for the aggressive life. So in July, we're going to have all new talks that I've given that you haven't heard before. And then we're going to have in August some all new interviews. So it's going to be a good summer. Keep aggressively pushing forward. It's been fun doing life with you this last year. I'm getting ready for another year. Thanks for joining us on this journey toward aggressive living. Find more resources, articles, past episodes, and live events over at briantome.com. My new books, repackaged edition of the 5 Marks of a Man and a brand new 5 Marks of a Man tactical guide are open right now on Amazon. If you haven't yet, leave this podcast a rating and review. It really helps get the show in front of new listeners. And if you want to connect, find me on Instagram at Brian Tome. The Aggressive Life is a production of Crossroads Church, Cincinnati, Ohio.